the main purpose of our company is to seek balance in soil and plant health because it's at the bottom of the food chain, and we believe that that balance moves up through the food chain to live healthier, more fulfilled lives through finding balance, through understanding and working with God rather than against Him. There is no element of nature that uses us. We are at the top of the food chain. That means that for us to thrive, we must protect and care for every element of the food chain. Hello, welcome to Bioregenesis. My name is David Gingerich, and this is my wife, Deborah.
Hello.
And we'll be sharing ideas about how this world works and how we believe it works. Let's put it that way. We definitely don't know everything, but we're excited to share with you what we have learned and to explore ideas with you, concepts, and see if we can't make this world a little bit better place. So we'll be sharing concepts and methods of living healthier, more fulfilling lives. Again, my name is David, and my background has been in landscape maintenance for most of my life. I started mowing lawns when I was 14 years old for a friend, and then later moved into tree and shrub care, and then a number of years ago, kind of back into the full landscape maintenance aspect of things. And that's when I began to notice that what we were doing was dysfunctional. It wasn't working. We were putting fertilizer on the way we had been taught. We were treating trees and shrubs with insecticides, sometimes fungicides, all the sides. And trees and shrubs were still failing. Turf was a constant battle to keep out the weeds, to kill grubs, to whatever, And I thought there's got to be a better way. So I began learning about soil health. And it's been an incredible journey. I sold that company, a little over a year and a half ago now, I guess, and started my current company, which is also named Bioregenesis. And, shortly after I started this company, I met this young lady, and she became my wife last year. And now we have another little one added to our family, and this is Eli. But I'll let Deborah introduce herself a bit and talk about her experience and her background.
Well, as he said, my name is Deborah. I worked in healthcare for about 13 years in physical therapy, primarily in the inpatient setting. I can tell you, I learned a lot through the pandemic. And I think everything that I was learning and seeing really came to a head last year, when I started learning about this umbrella term that they have in physical therapy and in healthcare now called functional neurological disorders, which is simply a fancy way of saying disorders that manifest in the body that came from the emotions, from stress, from what's going on in the human spirit, essentially. And I found throughout my experience, and especially after the pandemic, people seem to be getting more ill. They came in with things that I couldn't fix. And our system is so dysfunctional that they had nowhere else to go. They couldn't go home. They couldn't go to any other facilities. And they weren't getting better. And it really came to a head that our health is so much more than our physical bodies. And that, especially when I met David, I thought dirt was dirt until I met him. And he's like, actually, if it's dead, it's dirt. If it's living, we call it soil. So I now call it soil. And I understand now how many parallels there are between soil health and our own health. And especially how many parallels there are between the dysfunctions in the agricultural industry and the dysfunctions in the healthcare industry. I think kind of go hand in hand, and we'll talk more about that as we go and why that is. But ultimately, because of our family business and our son, I left healthcare because I wanted to do more, and I felt like I couldn't do that under the hat of a physical therapist assistant, and I couldn't do that under our current medical system, because ultimately our health begins at the level of the soil.
Yeah, we began to realize that what many of the things that we were doing, and I say we were doing as in our society is doing, were dysfunctional at best and very, very destructive at worst. So we decided we had to do something different. Now, another thing that both of us have done in the last 2 years is go through a coaching program which really addressed the same issues that we see in soil, in healthcare, but from a standpoint of personal development and how to deal with the non-physical things that go on in our lives. And I became a coach for the company to guide other people through that process, because it truly is life-changing when we understand a bit more about how things work. I'm just going to say things because it goes all the way from soil to the spiritual. But when we understand a little bit more about how these things work, we can work with them instead of against them. We can actually make progress instead of feeling like we're fighting against ourselves. So we'll be sharing, in this video, we'll be sharing some of the core philosophies that we have. And then in future videos, we'll actually be breaking off into actual like individual ideology of different things, as well as methods. And we'll be sharing some videos from our little, I guess we could call it a homestead here, our little patch that we have to work with, and how we're working to improve the health of our soils so that we get nutrients in at the very bottom of the food chain, care for the entire food chain, because ultimately we're at the top of the food chain, and we are the ones that get to benefit if we care for the rest of nature the way we should. So we'll get into a little bit here the reason for the name of our company, as well as this YouTube channel, Bioregenesis. Bio is a word for life, and regenesis means new beginnings, basically. And we believe very, very much that the Bible is true. The creation account in Genesis is true, as stated. We refute the idea of evolution. We don't believe that life can come from non-life, that physical things can come from nothing. We do believe that physical things can come from energy, but not from nothing. So we believe that there is a God, the God of the Bible. And so the idea behind this is to delve into the concepts that we see in nature and in the Bible, particularly in Genesis, and that we use those principles, those concepts, to get back to how nature was designed and to regenerate life from the bottom to the top, the way that God designed it to be. Now, Deborah, I'll let you share a little bit about your concepts of God, who you believe God to be.
Well, it's really our concepts.
Yes.
Because you helped me put it into these words. I think, especially having worked in healthcare and identified more aspects than just the physical that affect people, often if I brought up God in particular, that would shut people down right away. You're like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I don't believe in God, or whatever it is. Their experience with who they believe God to be has been less than helpful, and if not damaging in their life. And I think one of the biggest reasons that is because so many of us are taught of an angry God who is wanting to punish us. And I mean, the biggest question is, why do bad things happen to good people? And my question in return is, well, why did good things happen? nobody ever stops to think, well, why do good things happen to anybody, really? So we believe in an abundant universe, in a friendly universe that was created by a loving God. And if you look at life from that perspective of an abundant, friendly universe created by a loving God, then suddenly things look much different than everybody's out to get me and everything is out to get me and nature is just here to destroy us. Actually, we're all very symbiotic and so connected to each other in ways that I never fathomed in my life before the last year even. And you can understand your health and how soil health, plant health, the health of our communities, the health of our own relationship to ourselves, our own internal dialogue, our beliefs, how that affects our health and in turn the health of our plants and our communities and our soil. If we don't have healthy beliefs and a healthy relationship with ourselves, then how do you expect to have a healthy relationship anywhere else?
Yeah, thank you for that. We believe that nature is an expression of God himself. Not that God created the universe and then withdrew somewhere and just let it on autopilot. No, the intelligence that we see within nature, hello, Ralphie. The intelligence that we see within nature is actually God's intelligence. It's a divine intelligence that is not, it wasn't pre-programmed at the beginning and left to figure things out. It is actually God's intelligence at work. And that's why we see things within nature that are very, very quickly and readily adapting to changing environment, because there's an intelligence that's greater than the individual life form there. And we'll get into some of that in other videos. Another thing that we believe is the symbiosis of all things. So everything works in harmony together when it is in balance. Now,
balance is the key.
Yes, balance is definitely the key. But everything is created to be symbiotic. There is no good or evil in nature, in creation. Now, when it comes to the human element of that, that's another subject. We do have the ability to hold to evil, but in creation, there's not a good or evil per se. Everything was made beautifully to be symbiotic. Now, there are two kinds of symbiosis. One is a supportive symbiosis, where that's what we usually think of something being symbiotic. However, there is a second element of symbiosis that I personally call antagonistic symbiosis, where something becomes stronger because something is resisting it, right?
What you resist persists.
Yeah, so take for instance a tree in nature. When the wind blows and sways that tree and breaks those little roots underground, what happens is those roots actually branch out more and the tree becomes much stronger. So that's a example of antagonistic symbiosis. Everything in this universe is symbiotic, even though sometimes from a limited perspective it appears to be destructive. And so we look at how to work with everything in nature. Don't label something as good or bad, but everything was created good. In Genesis, God said, after he created everything, he said, "Behold, it is very good." He liked it. He liked it how it was. Now, because of sin, there has been imbalance that has come into the world. So rather than trying to fight against nature or aspects of nature that we don't understand, instead we seek to understand its purpose a bit better and allow it to find that balance, to work with nature to achieve balance so that everything can work its function properly, rather than creating bigger imbalances that will ultimately harm more life forms.
You can see that in our own health, in our own lives too. So many of us get frustrated and ask that question, why do bad things happen to good people? That's like the wind blowing and breaking those branches, and it feels awful sometimes, and it's painful, and we don't want to experience it, and we label that as bad. My dad died when I was 13. A lot of people label that as that's bad, and they feel sorry for me, and really in the last few months, as I still process that and reframe it, it was good. That may sound like, how can you say that? But it was good because it, in a sense, broke some of those roots so that I could grow deeper roots and I could grow stronger. So it's important to understand, like I said, that it's a friendly universe and it's a loving God. Otherwise, you don't like the wind and you get angry at the wind, not understanding that God is letting the wind blow because he loves you and he wants you to be stronger.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So part of living successfully and in a fulfilled way in this universe is to understand a bit more about how things work and to actually embrace it, work with it. We believe that we were given dominion over the earth, which does not mean usership. It means stewardship. And why wouldn't we? Think about this. We are at the top of the food chain, right? We are. There's no question about that. There is no element of nature that that can overcome us per se, or that uses us. We are at the top of the food chain. That means that for us to thrive, we must protect and care for every element of the food chain, down to the smallest microbe. And the more I learn about this, the more I realize that when we introduce not only nutrients, but good, healthy biology into our soil, we are caring for what I believe to be the bottom of the food chain, as far as we can tell. And there is so much that we don't know. But as far as we can tell, bacteria, fungi in the soil are at the bottom of the food chain. When we get nutrients in through that bottom rung, then it can go up the food chain, up the ladder, all the way to us. And ultimately, we are the ones that benefit. That's the symbiotic nature of nature. That we do have the ability to destroy anything in the food chain beneath us. And unfortunately, we as humans have done that very often. That creates dysfunction throughout the food chain, especially at the top of it. So ultimately, we are hurting ourselves by hurting nature. So we believe that we can and should take responsibility for caring for the rest of nature. Let's see. Now, we do believe that we live in an abundant, friendly universe, as Deborah talked about earlier. The abundance is all around us. Just stop and think about how you can plant one kernel of seed and get, I did the figures one time, it's been a bit, but I think you can get around 3,500 kernels of seed from one kernel. That is mind-blowing. That is absolutely incredible. In our compost, we put out some organic matter, right, that nature has given to us. And then the microbes proliferate in there at a mind-blowing rate. Some of them can double their numbers every 90 minutes. That's incredible abundance. And we believe that this entire universe was created to support us. God began by creating light, first of all, and then everything else. And that's a subject for another video there again, how light and carbon are almost the same thing, and all life is carbon based on light. But God began creation by creating light, and then he ended by creating humans. Everything that he created was in a very systematic way of building blocks up to humans, and that's where he stopped. Well, I shouldn't say he stopped, because after that he created the church. But that's a
for another time.
that's a completely different subject, and I'm not gonna get into that here and now. But it is incredibly abundant, and I believe that it's God Himself caring for us. Another thing that kind of ties back into the antagonistic symbiosis thing is we believe that this universe is a school for us to learn in. And Deborah, if you don't mind expounding on that a bit.
Well, essentially, we're here to learn how to love and to receive love. That seems pretty basic. Like, well, I know how to do that. Do you? Have you even stopped to ask yourself, what is love?
Mm-hmm.
What does love look like? Would you know it if you saw it? And that can go back to, if you like, the scripture that love is patient, it is kind, it's long-suffering, it doesn't boast itself up. The list goes on. But yeah, it's a place for us to learn, to grow, to be more like who we came from, which is love. God is love.
Yes. The reason that this universe is symbiotic is because of love. Love always seeks the greatest benefit of all involved, not just ourselves.
So if you let go of what we've discussed as that knowledge of good and evil, which is it's a judgment call. Like, well, that's good or that's bad. One of my favorite sayings and concepts comes from Mother Teresa, which is the idea that as soon as you judge someone, and I'll add something, you lose all ability to understand or affect it, or influence it, rather. As soon as you put a judgment on a plant, a bacteria, a fungi, another person, yourself, a judgment on an emotion or a belief, that's good, that's bad, then you lose the ability to understand why it's there, what it's trying to tell you, and influence a positive change that is more productive to that balance in all of life and us, and that balance, that ability to work more symbiotically, if you will, more effectively with each other, with nature.
Yeah, balance is key. Balance is key in everything. E. coli has some very valuable functions, and yet if it proliferates and takes over, it can cause disease. Grief has a very, very profound effect on us. It's incredibly valuable. It's necessary for our growth, to soften our hearts, to open our hearts to love. And yet, if we live with constant grief and don't process it, allow it to do its work, then we get out of balance and we become depressed. There's even joy, happiness. If it's out of balance, it becomes toxic. We don't empathize with others the way we should. We cut off that connection with others. So the key is in balance, and we as humans we have strong tendencies to imbalance. But we would like to encourage you to look for balance in all things and seek balance. So, the main purpose of our company is to seek balance in soil and plant health, because it's at the bottom of the food chain, and we believe that balance moves up through the food chain to us. So that's our company, but our passion is to live healthier, more fulfilled lives through finding balance, through understanding and working with God rather than against Him.
That's the thing that excites me so much, is in working with and nurturing that plant and soil health, you learn so much about God. and about the world around you, about yourself, and even about others. They, before I met David, I thought they were pretty unrelated. Here's healthcare, here's plant and soil health, but they are so connected that it's a way to nurture our own health through better nutrition by growing healthier plants in healthier soil, but it's also a way to grow and learn ourselves. And I love that, and that's one of the things that we love doing, is finding ways of working with nature and developing products, even, if you will, like Johnson 2 compost, or natural fertilizers inspired by the way that nature does things. We want to work with people to help them identify what their goals are. Maybe they didn't even know what their goals were because they didn't know how important the health of their soil and their plants are. So that's one of the reasons that I left healthcare to help join in with him on this company, is because it's not just a company for us. It's our lifestyle. It's our passion.
Yeah. Every little microbe in the soil has a function, has a purpose. You're much, much greater. You are the crowning jewel of God's creation. You have a purpose. You have a reason to be alive. Find that reason, find that purpose. It's the only way you'll live a fulfilled life. And it's not always easy, but it is beautiful. It is so incredible. So please, go look in the mirror today. Look into your own eyes and appreciate God's creation. Aside from all the things that you've done that you think are wrong, God will use every one of those things as a powerful lesson, as a tool for your growth. Let it go. Let it go. Just appreciate God's creation. So if this resonates with you, if you're ready to grow healthier plants in healthier soil, if you're ready to
grow healthier yourself,
yes, if you're ready,
healthier ways of thinking, healthier ways of believing, healthier ways of looking at yourself and the world around you.
Yeah. Just join us on this mission. We don't have all the answers, but we've found that the journey of discovering truth can be incredibly exciting, incredibly rewarding. Life is just so much better when we know that all things work together for good. So subscribe to the channel if you would like. Give this video a thumbs up for the algorithm. I don't even know how all that stuff works, but anyway.
Sure, if there's somebody
yes.
you think that it will resonate and help, especially.
Yes. We're just the messengers for a much higher intelligence. We're your fellow humans. Like I said, we don't have all the answers. We don't have it all figured out, but we are determined to share what we have learned so that maybe it can fill in some gaps for you. And please, by all means, comment, give us your feedback, things that you would like to learn more about. And if we know about it, we will definitely share what we know. And if there are things that you disagree with, feel free to comment it. We are always looking to learn and improve, refine our beliefs. So please pour into our lives as well.
And you can check out our website at bioregenesis.us if you want to find out more about us, more about what we have to offer as far as products, more about the consultations he does, and even more about the coaching, the personalized coaching that we offer as well.
Yes. Feel free to reach out. You can find our contact info at bioregenesis.us. And it doesn't matter if you're looking to improve your soil or improve your life, or just need someone to pray for you. Please feel free to reach out. So anyway, we hope to see you on another video very soon. Thank you for your time, for your consideration, and may God abundantly bless you. May you find your purpose in life and live that fulfilled life that you've always dreamed of.
And remember, nature is an expression of God. It is God providing for us personally while maintaining an incredible disguise. Will you work with Him or against Him?